time for another episode of the Getup. What's the Getup? It's a slingshot. It's a chance to pull back your day and launch you into a new adventure with encouragement, motivation, and practical actions you can apply immediately to the goals you care about the most. Let's jump right in to today's idea. One afternoon, my wife and I were moving a few things around in our garage. Suddenly, the largest, blackest, hairiest shape I'd ever seen sprinted across the floor. It was like a loaf of Panera bread wearing a poorly constructed fur coat and Ugg boots. We had a rat. A large, easy to Google and terrify yourself even more, honest to goodness rat. The worst part was that it hadn't run out of the garage door. It had simply relocated to a different shelf under which to hide and rat multitask. Had it sprinted out the door, I would have assumed it was going on an adventure, perhaps with a talking dog voiced by Michael J. Fox, and I would have moved on with my life, thankful for the many lessons that rat had taught us. I went to Home Depot and got as many different rat traps as I could find. The only thing they had to have in common was that they had to end in rat murder. That was all I was focused on. I was not looking to rehabilitate this rat on some farm upstate where he'd have fields to run about with his rat friends. I placed the best trap, a 14-inch glue strip, by the weather stripping at the bottom of our garage door. Why did I place it there? Because the rat had chewed his way in at that exact location. Did you know their teeth never stopped growing? Terrifying. We thought age had worn it away, but we were wrong. It was teeth. Jagged little teeth that he had chewed to get into our garage. File that one away for a future nightmare. Worst of all, the rat didn't even hang a Shawshank Redemption style poster over the hole to hide his rat tracks. Rats are jerks like that. It took less than 24 hours for us to catch him. How did I find out that the glue trap had worked? Mostly via a screaming phone call from my wife Jenny. She called me at about 10 a.m. in the middle of a meeting, hysterical. She was sobbing, and all I could understand at first were the words rat and garage. Having watched as much CSI Las Vegas as I have, I was able to quickly ascertain the rat was on a glue trap and was probably in an on-again, off-again relationship with an exotic dancer. You've got to come home right now and deal with it, Jenny yelled. Get home, you've got to get home. And I said, baby, I'm at work trying to earn enough money to feed our family, I responded. Those weren't my exact words, but that was the general gist. Why don't you just open the garage door and push him out with a broom or something? You can sing a little song like Newsies. I offered that advice as an incredibly sensitive husband, attuned to her needs. She hung up and tried that approach for about 14 seconds. That's how long it took me to get the next phone call. It's screaming at me, she said. Did you know that rats could scream at women in garages when they feel emotionally vulnerable, or in this case, when their bellies are firmly affixed to a glue trap? I didn't either. We went around and around for a few more phone calls until finally Jenny called our next door neighbor, Miss Lynn. Now imagine the sweetest, most southern woman you can, and then multiply that person by one pie cooling on a windowsill. That was Mrs. Lynn. She came over, assessed that the rat's body was the entire length of the 14-inch trap because it was a Norwegian wharf rat, which is weird because we don't live near a wharf. And then she sent it home to be with Jesus. I mean that literally. She started crying because she felt like she was killing one of God's creatures and proceeded to shout, I'm so sorry, Jesus. We live in the South where even a rat murder is a moment for quiet, heartfelt reflection. I included that rat story in the first draft of my book, Do-Over. Now here's what my editor at Penguin Portfolio said. Quote, the rat story is hilarious. I am sadly reminded of it every time I enter my own garage. As I'd mentioned when we chatted in person, I don't think this story is essential to understanding what you're talking about in terms of calling experts when you need them. I suggest cutting it to keep the momentum of your narrative without such a long detour. In that exchange, I learned one big lesson about writing. Be ferocious. Be willing to kill copy if it's not keeping the momentum of the narrative. Cut all the fat. Drop all the fluff. Leave behind stories, even if they were fun to write, even if you think they are funny, even if you love them. If they don't serve the larger point you're trying to make, you've got to get rid of them. The challenge of art is that you must create with a full heart and edit with a cold heart. Let me say that again. The challenge of art is that you must create with a full heart and edit with a cold heart, especially if you care about serving your audience. Can you guess what that rat story had to do with anything? Of course not, because it didn't have a point. I just liked the story. I thought it was funny, and then I tried to wedge it into the book somewhere with the thinnest of bridges back to the main narrative. But my editor, Maria, wouldn't let me do that. She taught me to be ferocious, to eliminate the unnecessary, so that only the strongest, the leanest, the most urgent words remain. It's not about removing humor. Do-Over has a ton of humor in it and is still full of my voice, but it's also not full of pointless stories. When you write a book or open a business or launch a product, don't be afraid to say goodbye to the parts of what you're creating that don't serve the larger mission, the momentum, or the audience. Strip them all away until the only thing that remains is the best of the best of the best. Be ferocious. Thanks for watching this episode of the Get Up. Make sure you hit that bell so you don't miss the next one. Thanks for liking this video, and please subscribe. I'll keep making these if you keep watching them.